For more than a week, Sumatra has been trapped beneath an endless clash of clouds and violent monsoon systems. A sky that refuses to clear, a storm that refuses to end. Day after day, the sound of rain hitting rooftops has grown heavier, sharper, angrier. Rivers that once flowed gently between villages have swollen into monstrous torrents. What began as persistent rainfall transformed into a catastrophe of unimaginable scale, a calamity that has swept through the island, carving destruction through mountains, tearing apart communities, and leaving millions in fear. As the monsoon strengthened, walls of rain hammered Sumatra with such force that visibility dropped to inches. Entire neighborhoods plunged into darkness as lightning storms rolled overhead, roaring through the sky like beasts awakening. Rainwater crashed against the land in relentless sheets, soaking mountain slopes to their breaking point. The ground trembled, and then, without warning, the hillsides began to collapse. Landslides erupted like avalanches of mud and stone. Boulders the size of vehicles tumbled down slopes. Trees were ripped from the earth, carrying with them the soil, the roots, and the memories of families that had lived in those valleys for generations. Houses built along the hills were swallowed within seconds. Roads crumpled, farmlands were smothered beneath thick layers of earth. The force of the slides was so immense that entire villages vanished in the span of a single night.
Medan evakuasi sangat berat.
Across Sumatra, the human toll continues to grow. More than 303 lives have been confirmed lost, though authorities warn that this number may represent only a fraction of the reality. At least 279 people remain missing. Many feared buried beneath mud or swept into rivers that have grown too violent to navigate. These numbers, though devastating, cannot fully capture the scale of the tragedy. The broken families, the unanswered calls, the empty homes where laughter once lived. North Sumatra bears some of the heaviest wounds. Over 160 deaths have been recorded here alone. Survivors described scenes of unimaginable terror, water smashing through front doors, roofs collapsing under the weight of debris, and people clinging to tree branches as entire houses were torn away.
Tolong banget BNPB semuanya. Ini tambah deras di sini. Harusnya.
Parents searched frantically for their children in the dark, their calls drowned out by the roar of floodwaters. In the aftermath, villages stand in silence, marked only by twisted metal, shattered wood, and muddy footprints leading into nothingness. In West Sumatra, nearly 90 fatalities have been confirmed. More than 3,000 homes have been inundated or reduced to rubble. Streets that were once filled with shops and motorbikes have become murky, fast-moving rivers of debris. Families waded through waist-deep water with whatever belongings they could salvage: a bag of clothes, a family photo, a religious book. Others fled with nothing but the clothes they were wearing when the flood struck. Aceh, too, is battling the disaster head-on, with dozens of deaths and widespread property loss. In low-lying districts, floodwaters rose so quickly that residents had minutes, sometimes seconds, to escape. Several villages became completely isolated. Helicopters hovered overhead, their searchlights cutting through thick fog and rain, scanning rooftops for waving hands. In many parts of Sumatra, the water rose faster than anyone could react. In some districts, water levels climbed several meters within minutes. Cars were tossed around like pieces of driftwood. Wooden houses floated away, their foundations torn apart. Concrete walls cracked open. Residents scrambled to higher ground, but landslides blocked escape routes, trapping families on isolated hilltops. Rescue operations have turned into a race against time. Teams of rescuers struggle through mud that sinks up to their knees. Heavy equipment cannot reach many locations. Boats maneuver through flooded streets, dodging power lines and floating debris. Volunteers carry the injured on makeshift stretchers, crossing unstable ground to reach medical tents. In remote mountain zones, where roads have been erased entirely, rescuers trek for hours through treacherous terrain, sometimes guided only by the faint cries of survivors echoing through ravines. Communication breakdowns have made everything worse. Entire districts have lost electricity. Cell towers are down. Internet connections are cut. Families desperately trying to contact relatives receive nothing but silence. In some areas, the only way to report missing persons is to physically travel to the nearest police station or rescue post, a journey that can take hours or even days in these conditions. Shelters overflow with displaced families. Children sleep on thin mats beside strangers. Elderly residents shiver beneath blankets, coughing from damp air and exhaustion. In many shelters, the line for clean water stretches outside the building. Volunteers distribute rice, instant noodles, and packets of biscuits, but supplies are running low, and resupply routes are still blocked. The emotional weight inside these shelters is overwhelming. Parents sit quietly, staring into the distance, replaying the moment the water came crashing in. Children ask when they can go home, not yet understanding that home may no longer exist. Rescue workers try to offer comfort, though many of them have also lost their homes or family members. This disaster has spared no one, not the rich, not the poor, not the rescuers themselves. Material losses across the region are staggering. Rice fields that supported entire communities lie buried beneath mud. Fish farms have been washed away. Bridges that connected towns for decades are now twisted heaps of metal. Power stations are flooded, water systems are contaminated, hospitals are overwhelmed, treating both the injured and those suffering from sickness brought on by polluted floodwaters. Experts warn that the danger is far from over. The soil remains dangerously unstable. Rivers are still overflowing. More rain is forecast. With every new downpour, the risk of additional landslides grows. Authorities urge residents not to return to their homes yet, but some have no choice. They return to salvage what little remains, even as the land shifts beneath their feet. Despite the destruction, a powerful sense of solidarity is rising across Sumatra. Volunteers from unaffected regions have traveled for hours to help. Fishermen lend their boats for rescue missions. Youth groups organize food drives. Doctors work around the clock in mobile clinics. Local communities provide hot meals, clothing, and rescue support even though they too have lost much. Humanity is fighting back against the darkness of this tragedy, not with force, but with compassion, courage, and unity. Still, the scale of devastation serves as a warning. Climate change is amplifying monsoon patterns, triggering more extreme rainfall events, overwhelming drainage systems, and increasing the frequency of deadly landslides. Indonesia, with its steep terrain and dense population, remains one of the most vulnerable regions in the world. Strengthening early warning systems, improving drainage infrastructure, and educating communities on emergency evacuation will be essential for the future. For now, the focus remains on saving lives, restoring access routes, rebuilding communication networks, and delivering aid to isolated survivors. Many remote hamlets remain unreachable. Many families still wait for news, clinging to hope that missing loved ones will be found alive. And while rescue efforts continue, the people of Sumatra face the painful reality that recovery will take months, perhaps years. This unfolding tragedy is a reminder of the fragile line between life and loss, between safety and chaos, between a quiet evening and a disaster that changes everything.
21 นะคะนี่ชั้น OPD 1นะคะน้ำท่วมสูงขึ้นมากนะคะตอนนี้นะคะ
นี่เตรียมมิดหลังคาแล้วนะคะ
Sumatra will rebuild. Its people have survived countless storms, countless hardships, but the scars of this disaster will remain etched into the island's memory forever. We will continue to follow every development, from the front lines of rescue efforts to the long road of rebuilding.
My home. Hello, Bob.
More stories will emerge, stories of survivors, of heroes, of heartbreak, and of resilience. The world needs to hear them.
Ya Allah, jauh seram dong nih.
If you want to follow this story as it unfolds, and support our mission to bring clear, powerful, real-time coverage of global disasters, please like, share, and subscribe to Cataclysm TV. Your support helps us reach more people, raise awareness, and continue delivering in-depth reporting from the world's most critical disaster zones.